everyone, I'm Dr. D. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in transgender care. Welcome to my channel. Now, I did a video before talking about why you might be experiencing doubt and confusion about your gender identity, especially if you fall in the category between the age of 18 to about age 28. And now this is a sequel kind of to that video to share with you some of the things that you can do to help you bypass those doubts, to help you figure out whether it is your gender identity or what is your gender identity or what is your gender expression, and also to figure out what is your sexuality as well as whether you're really dealing with gender dysphoria. So as I said in that video, there's a lot of reasons why you may be experiencing a lot of doubts. And some of that has to do is that, I mentioned lasagna, right? Is that there's a lot of layers that sit on top of each other. So we have, again, I'm going to reiterate it very quickly here. We have sexuality, that is your sexual attraction to particular individuals. Then we have on top of that sitting your gender identity, which is the core sense of who you are in relationship to your gender. Then we have gender expression, and that's how you express yourself to outside world in relationship to your gender. And then we have gender dysphoria, and that is an incongruency somebody feels as a result of a medical condition, where the incongruency stems from not feeling comfortable with your biological sex in contrast to your desired gender. So all of those layers interconnected, and they all kind of play on each other and tend to sometimes model things and create a lot of doubt and confusion. So if you fall into that younger category group and you see and you experience yourself having a lot of confusion and a lot of doubt, and you wonder, am I transgender, meaning do I have gender dysphoria, or am I not transgender and maybe just need to further explore my gender identity? So here's a few things you can do. For starters, you have to be careful not to jump in the medical transition. If you are uncertain and doubting yourself and doubting your sense of who you are, the last thing you want to do is take hormones that will have irreversible changes that you will later regret. So you really don't want to do that. A lot of people think hormones are a great way to alleviate dysphoria, but in order to alleviate dysphoria, you need to make sure that you do experience dysphoria, and you need to have it diagnosed to begin with. You don't just want to go and take hormones as something that will validate your gender identity. That's really not what the hormones are for there. They can validate your gender identity for people who are already experiencing a lot of gender dysphoria and are really scared to start and are still having a lot of fears. That can be a good validity test, but you're not there yet. You fall in the category, I'm assuming, of people who are still questioning and having a lot of doubt and wondering whether you're transgender. So the first thing that I always recommend is obviously social transition. And what is social transition? As I said, and I have a detailed video link below that talks about what social transition is. Social transition usually is just that. It's basically socially coming out, maybe just not even coming out if you don't feel comfortable with that because you're still in that exploration stage. But do try to take on gender role expression that you feel like is more comfortable to you. So as in my many videos, I make this particular examples. If you are a guy and you find yourself to be more feminine, experiment with that. So push your femininity to the limit. Try to express yourself in a feminine clothing. See what fits really comfortable for you. Try to find out, it's almost like trying on style, if you will. Try to find out what really feels in authenticity to your true self. And the same thing for a female. If you're a female and you see yourself more as masculine or more as maybe identifying as non-binary, try on different gender expressions. This is what the test is all about. The social transition is all about trying on different gender expression, different gender roles, seeing what feels right to you, seeing what feels much more organic and authentic to your sense of self. And we do all of that without the hormones. The next thing you can do is that if you really want to see what a particular binary identity feels like for you, you can try on an experiment with pronouns or with a different name and in your tight social circle and see what that feels like and see if that's affirming or not affirming. And usually people pretty quickly can tell whether it feels comfortable or not. Now, sexuality is another thing. And, I gotta say the only way to really find out what your sexuality is by being sexually active. I'm not talking about being irresponsible and being sexually promiscuous. I'm talking talking about being explorative in a sense of your sexuality, and you don't necessarily have to always do it by being in a partnership or a relationship with somebody else. You can also do it through your own self-body touch exploration, also through kind of exploring your own inner world of fantasy, trying to see what kind of desires things you tend to desire, and what kind of fantasy elements you tend to be drawn to, what kind of things really sexually arouse you. All of the things can be done without even being in a relationship with somebody. Now, of course, being in a relationship with somebody is a great way to learn a lot of things about yourself, especially about your sexuality as well as your gender. But really, any relationship, and it doesn't have to be intimate one, with other people, your friends, your family, your peers, can tell you a lot about yourself. The key here is to be explorative and try to explore those parts about yourself. When it comes to especially gender, and if you're having a lot of doubt, you really need to try to push yourself out there and explore with different gender expressions. And as you explore, you'll find out whether you're starting to lean toward maybe one category that feels more comfortable for you, or you're going to pull yourself back and realize that maybe not so much so. And also, as a result of exploration, if you truly do have gender dysphoria will become pretty predominant if that's the case, and you'll be very quickly become symptomatic, and you'll be able to see that, and you'll start feeling a lot of incongruency in relationship to your body. So it's a great way to really push yourself out there and explore, but don't be afraid to do that. I know it's still very hard because our society is still very narrow-minded. So for a guy to explore their femininity can be very challenging. As I said in a previous video, especially if you're a man who are attracted to women, and you find yourself being, leaning towards heterosexual type of sexuality, that can be really hard because a lot of women will stereotype and they tend to see effeminate guys as gay, and that's not the case, and that can sometimes reel you back in and prevent you from expressing yourself in feminine ways, because then you feel as if you're expressing yourself in feminine ways, you won't be able to find somebody to date. And all of those challenges can sometimes come to forefront and can be hard to deal with. But again, they will tell you a lot about your gender identity, and they will tell you how much of that has to do with your gender expression, your sexuality, and how much truly it is a case of gender dysphoria. So it's always when we have doubts, always when we have uncertainty, the only way to bypass them and to figure out is to get outside of our heads and to get out there into the world, and by doing. Nothing clears up uncertainty and doubt but by experimentation, by learning, by action, by actually being out there and trying it on. It's just like anything else. It's just like, truly, I'm talking about anything else that we try to figure out about ourselves. If I don't know if I like skydiving, well, guess what? Maybe I should try skydiving. If I don't know if I like red lipstick, well, guess what? Maybe I should try wearing red lipstick for some time. So the same thing. I know this is a very ridiculously narrow example, but it's kind of similar in so many ways. You have to go out there and you have to try on gender expression that fits a little bit more closer to you and see how you identify. And the same thing with sexuality. You don't know if you're gay if you're not maybe going to try to, in the very least, explore your sexual desire toward men. If you're, same thing with lesbians, you don't know if you're lesbian. If you want, at least explore your sexual desire toward women. You have to be open to explore it. I know there's a lot of things culturally and religious that tend to pull that exploration back, that tells us that it's wrong, that tells us that it's sinful, that tells us a lot of other things. But if you're holding yourself back, it's still going to be there. It's not going to go away. And the only way to find out is to put yourself out there in the real world, to step out there in the territory and explore. So best way, again, to bypass doubts is to explore, 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 explore. Don't jump in the medical transition. By no means don't jump off. Obviously avoid surgical transition. You're not there yet. You don't want to have any regrets. You don't want to, and I think this is actually why we see a lot of younger people detransitioning. We don't see older people detransitioning, but we see a lot of younger people detransitioning, and I think it's because exactly for this reason. They haven't spent much time exploring. They haven't spent much time doing. They've been so much in here, they thought for sure, and this is very powerful. Don't fool yourself. Our mind can convince ourselves that we are truly trans when we're not. So you really have to go out there and experiment. You also have to talk to a professional and find out if you truly have diagnosis of gender dysphoria. All those things can be helpful. Let me know how you tend to cope with doubts. Comment below. What tends to work for you? Have you explored, and how your own self-exploration has helped you? And so let me know. I'd love to read your comments, and I'd love to see what you have to say. I'll see you guys all next time. Bye.